I p***ed on Donald Trump in my performance. I love drag.
RuPaul's Drag Race UK. You're casted.
I didn't expect to get the call. I wasn't ready, but I just threw myself into it.
Bimini, darling, have a seat.
I came off the show and I had a wealth of opportunity. 5-star hotels, shooting magazine covers. My dream is coming true. It went sour with my manager. I was like so alone, crying out for help. And that's when I first used drugs to numb how I was feeling. Abusing drugs is definitely a real big issue that's happening within the queer community. For example, like chemsex.
Yes, in the past decade, 1,000 deaths have been linked to chemsex-related causes.
Just so sad. What I'm trying to learn now is allowing myself to feel low, but the drug use isn't part of my life.
So when you think back to the lowest point, when was it?
I got a phone call, there's been a car accident, one has died. Everything just went numb.
You've gone through these incredible challenges and you continue to fight. I hope for many things for you, but in particular, what I hope for is your happiness, because I know that is what you want more than anything.
It was quite hard to hear that. I don't know why. Quite hard to hear.
Bimini, who loves you? Hey, it's Paul here. Before we dive in, I just want to say thank you for being here. If this show has meant something to you or taught you something new, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. This show only happens because of you. That one small click helps us grow, bring on amazing guests, and keep these honest conversations going. We've got some huge episodes coming, and if you subscribe, you'll be the first to know when they drop. Thank you. How should I refer to you?
As in like my
Pronouns.
I'm happy with they. I'm happy with yeah, I'd say they. Like, but also just Bimini.
Yeah. You know, and even for us to even touch on this is this almost exhausting to have to go through that kind of preamble with people?
No, and I also understand that it's a very complex conversation, but like I think from my perspective, like language evolves and language changes, and actually we have always used they them in our language, you know, in like a singular term. Like you'd say something, for example, like, where was so and so today? Oh, they were out playing football.
Yes.
And that's already using the term they without even knowing, like consciously. So I think like for some people, pronouns are very, very important. And I think that's something that I have definitely struggled with over the years, was being so open about the non-binary identity, but then also actually realizing that then became the kind of complete opposite of what I was feeling.
Interesting.
It became its own category. I didn't want to then become part of another binary idea of what that is. So it's kind of like, it was a really weird one, but as long as you're not coming from a place of malintent, people can understand, like, you can mess up, but it's good to just ask, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. And I appreciate that. And it's interesting because you said that your understanding has evolved.
Totally has, yeah.
Okay. And I want us to go through that journey with you.
For sure, yeah.
Because I believe it is amazing.
Yeah, I
This
mean, I
amazing
think I think that's one of the most amazing things we can be in life, is just be open to change and understanding and evolving, you know, and like trying to learn from it.
And sometimes it forces you to pull out the lesson. That thing, that event could have been so challenging, so traumatic, but if you can then find the lesson, it is a win, you know?
Yeah, and it can be hard. Everything has become so, it feels very serious at the minute, and a very like there's less fun, but there's also, you're seeing so much information constantly, and we are desensitized to so much, and we're all exhausted.
Yes.
So I think like we all, as a species, I think our kind of collective consciousness hasn't evolved past where we are at with technology.
Yes.
I think that's advanced way further than we have as humans, like in our kind of spiritual sense. And that's why we're at kind of the place we're at right now.
Yeah. Well, let's dig into this journey that you've gone on to get to this place that you're at now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you're probably in your most mature, self-aware state than you ever have been.
31. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
But it hasn't always been that way, right?
No,
So you were born, is it Yarmouth?
it's Great Yarmouth.
Great Yarmouth. Great Yarmouth. All right. I was looking at it on the map. I didn't realize it's like right across from Amsterdam almost.
Yeah, I mean, there was going to be a port, but they stopped it, which I don't know why, but I think it would have been very good for Yarmouth's economy. Like easy, but like it was. I think that was genuinely what was meant to happen. They were building like an outer harbour because it is the closest port, and it didn't happen, which is a shame because I feel like Great Yarmouth has got its quirks and its beauty bits, but I think it's an old seaside town that's kind of forgotten about a bit. You know,
Yes.
they're a bit like left because everyone can get like cheap holidays to Spain now. So like no one goes and like loves those areas, and I think they're quite deprived and there's like a lot of poverty, and like with poverty comes like a lot of crime, and like there's a lot of like I don't know, it's quite sad to see it sometimes like in that sense because I had pleasant memories.
You did. Okay. So when you reflect back and you think about childhood, Great Yarmouth, right? You just think about the area.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Can't really remember my first house that my mum had. Like it was just me and my mum at that point. But then I think I start remembering she got a house in a place called Borough Castle. And it's kind of the countryside ish. I mean, it's an L shape, like there's two roads. Very small. But like we were opposite a Roman fort. It was like Boudica and like a lot of history there. And I found it really fascinating and interesting as a kid. And I remember just playing out all the time, you know? Like always like playing, there was woods and stuff.
Out playing,
Yeah.
having fun.
With no phones.
Yeah, exactly.
No phones, like just have to come home when it's dark.
It was getting dark.
It's getting dark for dinner. Like it was a different time, you know?
Totally different time. I mean, I was in that zone and I'm with you, you know? But you just said something that makes me think, okay, you said it was just you and your mom at that time. So I understand that your mother and your father, they were married and they divorced.
Yes.
How old were you?
I can't pinpoint the age, but I think I don't have any memories of them being together. My mum's influence is massive, and I think I have so much respect for how hard she worked, you know? Like she was on her own essentially, working full time. I was like with babysitters who were amazing, strong women, like always around strong women. Whether it was my nan or whether it was like Anne Kennedy was my babysitter and Laura. But they were amazing. They loved me, you know, like it was really sweet. But yeah, my dad's influence wasn't as strong. But interestingly enough, like as I got older, me and him were very similar. Even though he wasn't necessarily like the one, I wasn't there every day with him, you know, as a kid. Like my mum would be like, you walk like your dad. You've got an arse like your dad. Which at the time wasn't a compliment, but now I'm like, thank you. But like, it's interesting because it's like the nature versus nurture of it. Like,
Yes.
how much influence was it, or how much is that part of my DNA that we were very similar? But I think like he just maybe wasn't ready at the time, and that's okay.
Yes. You know, the nature versus nurture, that whole discussion is fascinating to me
Yeah,
because we oftentimes don't factor in how much the nature plays a role.
totally. And like that's something that wasn't even really around. And like to walk like my dad, and like, I mean, I also had the hairline as well, but not now. I've got a new one. But like, yeah, it was. It's funny. Nature does play a massive part into it.
Yeah.
And I was always like, my mum would always say I was very happy. Like I wasn't I wasn't sad. I was quite like flamboyant.
Okay.
But like outwardly not knowing what that meant, or like just being myself, you know, like I was navigated and drawn towards more feminine things as opposed to playing football or like things that were like action men. Like I'd rather play with Barbies or like dance around to Britney Spears. Like it was, yeah. And my mum allowed that, which I think was quite important. I think the only thing that she struggled with was other people's perceptions
Interesting.
and worry of how they would perceive me / how they would react to me, or if they would harm me. And that's always been her biggest concern with everything that I've done or everything I've gone on to do.
I think what your mother did was incredible. Your mother allowed you to be you,
Mm-hmm.
unrestricted. So many parents begin to see certain characteristics within children and then try to course correct. And that ends up just creating incredible harm. But your mother said, okay,
Yeah.
this is who you are. This is who you're going to be, right? But you said that she feared the perception and the potential harm. So at what point do you begin to recognize that there is a perception of you, and what is that perception?
Because my mum was supportive, but I wouldn't necessarily say everyone else in my family were. I was hearing the term gay before I had any idea what sex was, like any idea what sexuality was. I was not trying to be sexual when I'm dancing around to Britney Spears. I'm just having a good time.
Yeah.
I'm like dressing up in the like pearl necklace and the like little purple velvet dress in the nursery. Like it's just having fun. But I was then hearing, oh, you can't let him do that. He is gay. And remember thinking like, what is that? Like it was so confusing to me, but I picked up on it quite young.
Okay, how old do you think?
I'd say like 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
I was like quite, as a kid, one of those like quite, what do they call them now? The teachers would say gifted.
Okay.
Gifted, which goes on to mean neurodivergent, I think, now. But like I was a kid that would like, yeah, I wasn't afraid to like just be myself. And I think like where other kids would be or like held back, I wasn't shy. Like I was very like just me, but I was also starting to understand that like, oh, maybe you shouldn't be like that.
It's interesting that you were aware of that at 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think it's a detriment as well though,
How so?
because it teeters on the edge of like of why I think like over the years I've struggled with certain things in the sense of like, do I care what other people think about me? I think humans innately do have a level of that. There's only so much you could be like, I don't care, like shut it out, because where are you taking that energy and what are we doing with it? And I haven't always dealt with it in the best way. And I think as a kid I started taking it on quite early.
Mm,
And I think I remember like feeling it very young,
okay.
like judgment from other people, like about how I am and what I was doing was wrong.
As a result of being told you were wrong, did you try to then conform?
I think as a kid you just brush it off a bit quicker.
Okay.
But then as I'm starting getting towards puberty, I'd say that's when I started to be like, okay, I know what I need to do to get by. I can take the banter, but as long as I'm in on the joke, I'm not the joke.
I see.
So that was like a big thing because I was also still inherently like a bit flamboyant and a bit not shy. Like I had like an attitude and I conformed in a way that I felt would just get me through high school, basically.
Okay. So in what ways did you conform?
I wore some horrible tracksuits. No, in what ways did I conform? I'd like get involved in the banter and I just didn't like it. Like the banter was mean. I like hung around with the straight boys and the girls because there was like a group of us. And I was obviously told I was gay. And at that time I was like struggling to understand, not struggling to understand, but I think because I'd been told it so much, that made it harder for me. Instead of allowing me to explore my identity and my sexuality, I was being told I was gay from like the age of 4. So I think I struggled with accepting that or just being open about it. But I would just get involved in the banter with the boys, and I hated it. Like looking back, it was like it didn't make me feel good.
But help me understand, when you said you would get into the banter, are you saying that you would say what?
I wouldn't really be the one to. I'd like just repeat stuff that I don't know. Like I wasn't myself. Wasn't happy, and the boys would just take the piss out of each other all the time, which I think is fine, like to a level, like a degree. But that was it. That was the only conversations: football, girls, and taking the piss out of each other. And I didn't want to do any of that.
What did you want to do?
Um, I always knew that I wanted to go to London. I always knew that I wanted something more than what I was going to get in Great Yarmouth, I think. And that's no disrespect or shade to Great Yarmouth, but I just didn't feel like I fit in ever.
Mm.
And I feel like I struggled with that still now. Like the idea of fitting in, like I feel like maybe I'll never fit in, and that's okay in a way. So that's like the path I'm on now, like where I'm at, is just trying to be happy.
It sounds like you're saying you felt incredibly alone because you didn't feel like you fit in anywhere. Who did you have in your life as your support system?
In my teens, I had a good group of friends that were like, they were like a bit more, it wasn't the boys, it was like the girls. Like I was closer with the girls, really. Um, and I had like a best friend called Ellie Tweed, who's no longer here with us, but she was like my bestie. Like we were like, she got me and I didn't have to, I could just be myself. We were just silly. Like it was really fun and freeing having that. And we would get pissed together.
Yeah.
We'd smoke weed. Like we experimented. We were teenagers. We were just having fun, like it was a real good time. And like she was my support. Like she was my best friend. And like we discovered fashion and charity shops. And that was a real formative time for me, like I was reading Dazed and Confused, which is now Dazed, reading that and just seeing culture and like learning about like the history of like club music and clubs and fashion. And I was like, that's me. Like and we were all like our little group. We were like dressing weirder than other people, I guess. Like we were a bit more provocative at that point. We were becoming a bit more outrageous and like known for that in a way.
So you were almost finding your identity.
Totally. Like I was never one to be like a wallflower, which I sometimes wish I was, Like I wish I could have just sat back and not had to be involved in not being popular, but being part of something,
Okay.
Like being part of the accepted group. Like I didn't have to conform. I wish from a younger age I had stood up and been like, fuck you or whatever. Like, but I didn't. I just kind of shut my mouth. But when I found Ellie and like our other friends as well, like we just got it. We just got each other.
Absolutely. Now, one thing is, and stop me where you want to on this, but I'd like to explore Ellie a bit.
Yeah.
And the reason why, and I'll tell you from a personal perspective, is that whenever we go through traumatic events, what they do is they shift how we then view life and how we experience life. And I know there was a traumatic event that you went through with Ellie. So I'm interested to know that event, but then now that you look back, how did that shift how you saw life?
I mean, I can look back with such fond, amazing memories with Ellie. Like we were like best friends and I don't know, we did everything together. Like we were quite inseparable. And I think what the way it happened was just such a traumatic experience for everyone that was involved. So we were going out for Halloween and we were all dressed up. Like we went up to Norwich. There were 7 of us.
Okay.
And we were sat in a car to come home. One of the driver she was going to drive. She hadn't been drinking, but there had been like I believe there'd been MDMA throughout the night at some point. Me and Ellie were sat in the front, and I don't know why, but I had been drinking. I got in a mood, and I got a taxi home on my own. I don't know what happened. Like I remember thinking like I've got to be up for college in the morning. Like I'm gonna go. So I left the situation and just got a taxi, which I didn't even have the money for. Like I don't know, it was paid for. I had like no money.
And everyone else stayed in the car.
Everyone else stayed in the car, and then I got a phone call at 8 a.m. to say, "Is Ellie with you?" And I said, "No, why?" And her mum said, "There's been a car accident involving 5 girls. One has died." And it was just like at that time, like everything just went numb, like everything went like I didn't know what the fuck I just heard, like what had happened. Like it was so crazy. And then we all went to the hospital. Like my mum drove me, like we all went up and just waiting to hear like what had happened, and like the accident was really severe. Like we not only lost Ellie, but like one of the girls broke every bone in her face. Another girl broke her like neck back.
Wow.
Like a lot of damage happened to people, and I think we're all the girls would still be like living with that now, obviously, and like we all have, and like there was like prison involved with it. Like there was a lot that happened then, and it was just so sad because it was like 3 weeks before Ellie was turning 19. And we had always said we wanted to be 18 forever, so she got to be 18 forever, which is like, but she was, I don't know, she was like a older spirit, and she would see the best in the world, the best in life, and like I looked up to that massively. Look, basically the week before we were at our friend's river house, just partying, like having a good time. It was great. And she randomly told me and another person the song she wanted at their funeral. Like she told us like what she wanted to be played. And then the week later, like it was just so many crazy things. It's like she knew, like her time on this experience, her time on this earth was done. She had done everything she needed to do, and she was I don't know, like that's how I've always felt with it, you know, like in that sense. And I mean, it was, I'd say, probably the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to me. Going through that.
She was one of your best friends.
Yeah, she was my best friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've never not since then had a friendship that's the same.
That's profound.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, she was like the best person ever.
Dr. Gabor Mate, he sat right there in that chair. He's considered to be one of the world's foremost experts on trauma. He says something about trauma that I think we oftentimes don't give enough credit to, and that is that trauma is not only about what happens to you, but it's events that should have happened or we think should have happened to us, how that reshapes how we then view life. This is an event where you stepped out of this vehicle.
Yeah, it's insane because on the way up, we were all in it, you know?
Yeah. And so when you now reflect back, how did that event, all of it, how does it change then how you begin to view life or even experience life differently at that age?
I felt very lucky. I felt very guilty.
Did it give you any confidence to further deepen your identity and be bold with your identity?
Totally, and she still does. Like her belief, like the way she is about being like, just being happy, not giving a fuck what anyone else thinks. Like I think about her a lot and her kind of ideology of that when I'm struggling and when I have struggled, and I know that, like, I mean, I think about her every day, you know, like she's
You
still do, yeah, massively. Like she had such an impact, and I think often like talk to her. It's funny, even to this day, recently, like I've recently gone through a breakup, and I'm thinking about her and thinking about how she would tell me to be.
Wow.
Like she has such a stronghold.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's beautiful. You know, I lost my best friend a few years ago, and what I find so interesting about losing him is that I speak and think more about him today
Yeah.
than I did when he was walking around this earth. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the life lesson, isn't it? We take for granted what's happening right in that moment.
Yes. And she would, hands down, be incredibly proud
Yeah.
of.
I mean, I'm hoping she'd be here with me.
Oh yeah. Well, she is. I mean,
She is,
she
yeah.
is. So, the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned that you were evolving your definition of sexual identity.
hmm
Okay. So, at 18, sexually, how did you identify?
I knew inherently that I was like more than just gay,
Okay.
but I was gay. Like I was very obviously gay. But like, I mean, definitely was feeding into like the fashion and everything in a way of the zeitgeist. And like there was a TV show, I don't know if you've ever watched it, called The Only Way is Essex. I'm not sure if it's your cup of tea, but
I have seen a few
seen it.
episodes.
Yeah, so there was a lot of there was a color of their skin that was like quite prominent, which was orange, and that was also my color of the skin. And I had red hair, and it was just weird. Like if I look back, it was weird.
You look
I
like
was
Donald Trump.
I look like something. I wouldn't go that far though. Not the Trump. But I was, yeah, it was, but like I was gay. I was gay, but I was also like, I don't know, not really fully knowing what I was.
Okay.
You know, like I think if I look back and I was like, is that really what I wanted to look like? I don't know. Like it was something. I bet it was good.
This episode was recorded before the recent Supreme Court ruling on trans rights in the UK. The reason why I'm recording this is because I would have definitely asked Bimini a question on this particular topic, and I know for sure Bimini has a lot to say on this subject. In terms of this whole, sexual identity.
Yes.
One thing that I have now begun, and I say begun, I now understand, but I definitely didn't when I was over there. You know, that's me at 18, basically. You know,
Fab.
is that I view the world binary. it was, and you know, and I didn't view the world, especially sexuality, as a spectrum.
Yes.
Whereas I look at sexuality today as a spectrum. How did you view it at that time?
I I remember like my mum, I would say to my mum, like, I'm not just a boy, I'm not just a girl. Like I'm not, I don't know, but I think she maybe thought at the time it was me just trying to be a bit like provocative or a bit
Okay.
like be a bit different or whatever. But I remember thinking like, no, I feel different, I think. Like I don't feel like I'm necessarily one or the other. I feel like I'm me and I don't fit into the binary. I don't fit into the binary, but I didn't really know what the binary was at that point. So
Okay.
this is like 14 years ago. I would have kind of not had any idea what I was doing, but I was having sex with men. I had had sex with females as well at that point. I had explored my sexuality. I wasn't always like confident in it. I think like I definitely um would lubricate with alcohol. I mean, still to this day, there's shame with uh, gay queer sex or gay sex. You know, I grew up like after post kind of the AIDS like crisis that happened, and I would hear stuff about that. If you have sex, you're going to get this, and like we didn't have the education.
Mm.
Like no one taught us in school that what had happened throughout AIDS and how it had changed, and all of the pioneering medicine and the ways of treatment and things that we have available now. Because even though it affects everyone, it was predominantly seen as something that was for gay men. You know.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
So that was
I remember.
something I came up after that, and I can't even imagine like going through that, like being sexual during that period. Like it must have been so difficult and horrendous to not feel so much shame because of the stigma that society has done. But like we came from post that, and like there was like an air of acceptance, like oh, it's okay to be gay, blah blah blah. Even though the language that was used in kind of schools and college was like, oh, that's so gay. Like gay was used as a derogatory, you know.
Yes.
So I would say it. I'm not like I would say it, not just because it was the language.
That's interesting.
Like not even putting two and two together, you know, that is a negative about my identity, my sexuality, or like my exploration of that. Um, but yeah, I remember like my first sexual experience being horrendous, and it was like with a guy that was quite a lot older than me, to be honest, like for my age. And yeah, it didn't end well for the first time, and that was like, I mean, that put me off to begin with, to be honest. You know,
It puts you off of what?
sex. I was afraid of it for a while, I think.
Wow.
I didn't know what it was meant to look like. Like I didn't know like obviously I had seen porn and stuff at that point, but like porn is a certain image of like what sex is. I didn't always enjoy the like kind of sometimes the hookup seediness of the night out thing, like meeting some random like it was something that I struggled with. So I was a bit more of a party boy at the time, and sex wasn't necessarily like a focus for me. Just going out and get wasted was really.
Was the focus? This is a great myth for us to demystify, and that is you are not the exception. You are the rule. Most people have low satisfaction sex in their first experience.
Yeah.
And as a result, then are turned off on it. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
You experience something for the first time, you didn't have a good time, you don't want to do it
Like
again.
why would yeah, exactly.
But I think that the script that we're fed is, you know, you should want it again.
Yeah.
That's your fault. That's your issue. You're the
Totally.
problem. Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to say, no, this is what happens more often than not. So you are the rule then. You're not the exception.
I am short, obviously, before I put these shoes on, you know, like a lot shorter. And I was kind of slimmer. And so therefore, within gay stereotypes, which I was learning about and hearing about, people automatically assumed that I would take a certain position, you know? And I didn't know necessarily, I hadn't learned about how that works, what that is, like seen it, but like I kind of was automatically like put into a box or like put into like an idea of what I had to be.
Yes.
And like I had to go for this type of guy. And like, I don't know, it was always a bit weird for me. It felt too rigid and like not right. All we ever learned about was like putting a condom on a banana and male to female sex, you know? There was no nuance. There was no understanding of other people's gender identities. So much nuance is missed in education because So therefore, I think that's harmful when it comes to being going into having sex, because learning just about one type of sex is harmful for everyone else that doesn't experience that, you know?
Yes.
And I think it feeds into like the narrative that everything else is wrong and this is how it should be. And I think that's linked with so much the trauma that queer people have with sex. And it's not just gay sex, it's sex for trans people. But like the male gaze has impacted how the entire world views sexuality. Like you grow up with like Disney and everything with a male and a female prince and a princess, and it's so stereotypical when it comes to gender.
Yes.
And there's no nuance. Like the damsel in distress is saved by the strong prince.
By the strong, right.
And like that's
the example of masculinity
and femininity, and
Yeah.
femininity is seen as the weaker, and like that's an issue that affects, I think, every single person on the planet.
For many years, I fell victim to the script, to this narrative. I remember in New York in particular, and a lot of it, and this will definitely get us into dangerous territory, but I will put this out, is I think that, this is where organized religion plays a strong role,
Yeah, totally.
right? And I distinctly remember the script that was handed to me was that if you are gay or if you are part of the queer community, you are hypersexual. And not only are you hypersexual, but you are a sexual predator.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that that's allowed, like those, and it's still to this day, it's been perpetuated now with trans people. Like there's no truth to back up the evidence that a trans person is going to take away women's rights and is also a harm to other people. It's actually demonizing an already marginalized group that just want equal rights. And I think we need to actually get to a resolution where there's a middle ground, because people are being harmed. Like there's trans people that we're losing, their lives are getting taken, their identities are being taken away, access to healthcare. They are being stripped away of basic dignity as human beings and not listened to. But it's also, it teeters onto like queerphobia, femphobia. It's all kind of linked under misogyny in a way.
It is. It's all linked. And when you look at the result, it's disastrous. So we recently had Ella Morgan on,
Love Ella.
right? Transgender woman. And we looked at how in the transgender community, there's a much higher rate of suicidal ideation
Yeah.
and taking of one's life, and lower employment and higher alcohol and drug usage. And then you look throughout the queer community and then you realize, oh my God, drug usage, alcoholism is rampant.
Yeah.
Why? Because of what we're talking about
Yeah.
here. Because anytime that you have society further marginalizing or shunning you, you are then in pain. And you seek to
Without knowing,
self-soothe.
maybe.
Yes, yes. And I want to get to this because in your story, you have some experience with this,
Totally.
right? And I would love to know, at what point in your journey do you feel like you've gone from recreational usage of, is it drugs and alcohol?
Drugs and alcohol, I would mainly say it was drugs though.
Drugs.
Alcohol was never really I didn't like a hangover.
Okay. So at what point do you go from recreational usage of drugs to abusing drugs?
Like if I look at my family history, on my grandparents' side, not my mum and dad, but like grandparents above, like 3 out of 4 have gone due to drug and alcohol related problems, like issues. Like so I definitely know that there's like kind of some sort of 50% genetic. And then I guess the circumstances was I would like a good time. I was a fun person. Like I would we would go out and party, have a good time. It was fun at some points. Like it wasn't always bad. But then I think I would enjoy myself. And there were points, I think in my early 20s when like wouldn't want the party to stop. So we'd keep going for a bit longer than we probably should. And that was my first experience of like kicking the arse out of it and taking it a bit too far. But then that continued a bit to the point where I stopped for many, many years. Like I had a real big, long break from abusing drugs up until kind of just after Drag Race.
Okay. So the drugs that you're abusing, can we go through them? What specifically? Because yeah, I was doing some research on this, but specifically, do you recall which
So
drugs
there
were
was,
used?
I mean, throughout the years, I think it's varied. Like, because I would also say, when I've spoken to my therapist about it, like it's never just one drug. Over the years, I've used kind of like lots of different drugs, um, cocaine, ketamine, methadone, which is quite prevalent in the gay community, GHB, um, after like yeah, I think that they'd be the ones that like have been problems.
Okay. All right. So two of those that you just mentioned, and this is a term that I had not known until I was researching for this conversation. Is it chemsex?
So chemsex is definitely a real big issue that's happening right now.
Okay. Please explain this because this is related to the drug usage.
So I guess like it's a term that was kind of, I guess the first time I heard it would have been about 2014.
Okay.
And it was a term again linked to kind of gay men that have sex with men. Right now it's an epidemic that's happening massively.
It's an
Like
epidemic.
it's a crisis. I think there's a problem, more so than ever before. I think this is a really important thing to talk about actually because like not necessarily saying that like this is my experience, but I think as a human, a lot of people have used alcohol or drugs in a sexual way to like enhance or like make it more pleasurable, especially drinking. Like that's so common, you know. You
Yes.
go to a bar, you pick up. Like I've definitely experienced that. But within the queer community, like we said, there's a lot of shame. We're seeing like I've recently seen the studies, like the rise is crazy. We're the worst place in Europe for this crisis that's happening.
The UK.
The UK, London's
London in
city
particular.
in the Europe. People, there's not enough being done about it. Like I basically heard on the news this morning that a lady's alpaca got taken, which is really sad. But there's also 3 gay men dying a month, you know, in London, and we're not hearing about it. No one's talking about it.
So then specifically, what is chemsex
I mean, it's just having sex under the influence.
of any drug or specific
It could be
drugs?
any drug, I think. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it can. I think the like term was kind of just coined as just yeah, chemsex was like within the queer community, but it's I mean like it's not just to the queer community. I think like it could be used in any
And then,
term.
okay, that's fair. And then in terms of the more prevalent drugs used in chemsex, I see it's methamphetamine, so crystal meth, GHB, right?
Yeah.
In particular. So when these drugs are being used during sex, but what you just said that I didn't see anywhere in the research is you linked it to the use is directly because of the shame.
Right. So it comes to as well, we're not going out as much since the pandemic. COVID has been a big hit on the community in general.
Okay.
And not just our community, but like everyone. And like no one's going out as much. Nightclubs are shutting down. Why is that? Well, people don't need to go out now to meet other people. They can just go on an app
Mm.
and hook up with someone. You can basically, if you wanted to, find a party at any time of the day. I don't know. You can't walk down the road and feel comfortable. The right is rising at the minute. And with that comes things going underground a bit more.
Yes.
Like people are being scared to be more themselves. And I think there's that's happening a lot more again. There's definitely shame with sex. I think, like, I'd still say I feel, not all the time actually, but like I have felt shame over the years for being queer. So I think there's a definite rise in what's happening behind closed doors in retaliation with that, you know?
Yeah. And to your point, an epidemic with regard to what's happening. Because so to follow up with some of these stats, in the past decade, 1,000 deaths have been linked to possible chemsex related causes. 2019 survey of 2,700 gay and bisexual men who used GHB, 28% reported having been assaulted. I mean, it's just, and the numbers go on. You talked about 3 people dying per month from chemsex in London.
Yeah, it's crazy.
3. So you're right. It's like the alpaca. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
But there's 3 men dying every month
And
in London.
it's getting worse. I think like it's something that's not really been spoke about because of shame. Like there's so much around it, and like I over the years have been part of the community a lot in different ways, and I've seen firsthand like over in clubbing spaces, like the change of drugs that have used. You know, like clubs and drugs have always gone together, but I think like the harder stuff like that are being used in those spaces, and it's dangerous. And I think there's not enough harm reduction. There's not enough information out there. There's not enough people speaking about it to protect it. And I think the community, we need to come together and allow people to have the space to be open and know that there are spaces to go to, you know? Like, we need more spaces that are sober. We need more spaces that are community driven, that aren't necessarily sex orientated or aren't necessarily just clubbing, you know? And my worry is that if we aren't able to kind of speak about it within the community first, it's going to become another moral panic, and it's going to be used against the community. It feels right now really hostile.
So how does the how does the straight community give true allyship to the queer community without, because true, without placating, without just attending Pride and
Yeah.
and that's it. How does the straight community give true allyship?
I think it's just about if you hear something that you know isn't right information, challenge it. Like, it might be uncomfortable, but it's only going to get worse, you know? Like, the way that language and the rhetoric has changed over the years has been very dark, and it's insidious. We just need to be more open to each other and actually know that the common enemy is the patriarchal standards that are creating all of this, you know? And like, it's not like a, oh, fuck the patriarchy thing, in a way, it kind of is, but like, we can all coexist if we were to all just understand that that person has a different life experience to me, but that's okay.
Yes.
It's okay to be different. It's also okay. It's okay to not have an opinion on everything as well. And that's me just sat here after having opinions. But like, it's okay to not have to say something on social media, or like, social media is a big thing that needs to be not policed, but like, there needs to be something done, because I feel like the algorithms are just building more hate, because we are kept into echo chambers. We don't see anything outside of our own thoughts and other people's thoughts. We're not challenged with things. The media want the polarization from both sides, because then it keeps you looking at the real problems, like the state of the economy, the fact that people can't put food on their table, the fact that we have a homeless crisis, the fact that the world is in such a kind of really difficult time. We've got climate change happening. There's discussions about whether we can move to Mars, but instead of sorting those problems out, it's who's pissing in the bathroom is the main issue. And like, we need to be like, why are you so obsessed with what's going on in the toilet? Let people piss in peace.
That is the Bimini's running for Prime Minister. Piss in peace.
Piss in peace.
Piss in
I mean, they've been speaking about it for years.
But these are facts. There's signal and there's noise, and we oftentimes we're distracted by the noise, and then we lose track of the signal. And
I think that's what they want, though, the whoever they are. But you know what I mean? Like, I believe that people want the best for most people, inherently.
Yes.
But I think the media plays against the idea of your community or your tribe, because it groups people so much. So then you are afraid of that person, and you won't give milk to that person, the next door neighbor, even though most religion is meant to say love thy neighbor. You know, and I think that's something that we're all missing, is just loving each other.
Because I completely agree. It is divide and conquer, and I think this is why these conversations are so important, is because we're bringing nuance to the world. The world typically moves off of fear. This is what we do.
Yeah.
And as if we feel threatened, or we feel our family's threatened, or we feel our value system is threatened, then the objective is to eliminate the threat, opposed to then reevaluate the values in the first place.
Totally.
I was talking with your show sponsor, Tinder, and they wanted to know if you've ever been on a date that ended up in an unexpected way. Do you have anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Endless stories. I mean, one in particular is that when Jill and I were dating, we went to a slam poetry competition, which I will say, I knew nothing about slam poetry. And that's when I learned that you snap your fingers, right, when you applaud. I specifically went there because I wanted to impress Jill so that I can get a little, I'll say, bonus afterwards, But what I learned through one of the poets is that we are all artists. The poet specifically said, we are all artists. And that triggered something in me. It made me click, to the point where I realized that I wanted to create. I wanted to figure out how to do that. So afterwards, we went out to eat, Jill and I, and we started talking about creating art together. And I learned from that date that, the date isn't just about the other person. It's not about your physical pleasure. It's not about their physical pleasure. It's about what you can learn about life, about yourself. It was an unexpected outcome from a date. So wherever a date may lead, it starts with a swipe. That's why you need to download Tinder. Are you ready? That's probably too much. Let me see. How about everyone? Everyone. Everyone. Oh my God. Sheffield. Chef. Scott, how do you say this? Is it
Sheffield.
Sheffield. Man, at least this isn't live, right?
Well, no, but that's about to change, isn't it?
So we are going to do We Need to Talk live for the first time. The magic is in the conversation, so we'll have a very special guest. You know what's probably most cool about this is this will be the first time that the We Need to Talk community will come together in person. I'm curious to see, what does everyone look like? What do they smell like? Sheffield, July 5th at the Crucible Theater. So to get tickets, very simple. It's crossedwires.live. It's very important to buy tickets quickly because they will go fast. We'll make sure that there's a link below. I'm curious, at university, what did you study?
I studied journalism.
Studied journalism.
I studied journalism, but I also went on to do a master's at Goldsmiths in human rights.
Did you? Look at that. Look, okay.
And then I got an honorary fellowship from Goldsmiths for conversations around gender, which was amazing.
Look at that. See, these are facts I don't think people know.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
So at that point, what was your career trajectory? What did you want to do?
I was very politically engaged, but it was at a time then when Jeremy Corbyn was, he'd just become the Labour leader. It was such it's such a energetic time. I would like write for some like left wing newspapers, and I'd like do like certain pieces where I'd like go to, like, I was in Calais for a bit and like seeing what was going on. But then I also felt like I don't like what I'm doing here. I'm like going to write an article about this fucking disaster that's happening while I'm gonna get to go home and like these people. Do you know what I mean? I felt very like, I don't know if this is right for me. Like, I don't know if this is like this kind of idea of me being an investigative journalist. It didn't sit right morally in a way. So I then decided to put a wig on my head. As you do, As you do.
Yeah, I should do this.
Yeah.
It's like, because I'm questioning what am I going to do with my life. Maybe this is what I should do.
There you go.
Just
do
put
it.
a wig on my head.
I entered a drag, like a competition at the Glory back in 2017. So if there's one going, you should do it.
Was that 2017? Was that the lip sync?
It was Lip Sync 1000.
I watched that.
Did you?
I'm Bimini. I've watched everything
Oh, I love
of
that.
yours. Can I say, this all connects now?
Yeah.
Because if I recall, when you were doing that 2017, when you walked on stage, the entire first couple of minutes was political.
Yeah. I mean, I've always tried to bring that into my drag in a way.
Yes.
In a way, and I think that for me. That was drag. Like, that was having something to say on stage. Like, I'd never done it before, I was always a bit of a show pony when I was younger. Like, I would dance, but I stopped dancing like 13. Again, pressures of being younger. I stopped that, which I wish I didn't. But I loved performing. I loved dancing. I wasn't always told that I was creative because I was shit at art. I was shit at drawing. So I was told in school, "Oh, you're not very good." So even though I loved music and fashion and all of these things, I never really had access to that. So this was quite a new world to me. But there was something in me that was like, you need to do this. You can do this. Like, there was a belief.
But where is it? I mean, because, okay, so I think drag in itself is an area that I'm fascinated by. because
How long have you got? Because we can keep going.
let me get here. Take my water. I've been had this. Here, take this water.
Okay,
There
thank
you
you
go.
very much.
You got it. Because the reason why I'm so fascinated is because I thought drag was a new concept,
Mm.
but I didn't realize that this is. I mean, from what I see, is since 16th, 17th century.
Oh yeah.
You had in Shakespearean theater, men playing the role of
Well,
women.
women weren't allowed to play the theatre, were they?
No, not allowed to play, right? Patriarchy in full effect. And it was it literally the robes that were dragging along the ground, and this is where drag.
Drag, yeah, yeah. And I think there was like drag and dressed as girl.
Oh,
something.
dressed as girl.
But
Oh,
then I don't know where the R. I swear that's what my granddad's told me.
okay.
It might not be right. I mean, I don't know why he'd know.
You never know.
He might know. I love him. I mean, he's very supportive of me now. Like he's come to a lot of my things.
But even so how, like, when do you first become aware of drag?
I will. First being aware of drag was when I was younger. First memory was walking through Soho with my mum and my stepdad.
Okay.
So Ray and my mum, and I remember being told to look for the Adam's apple.
Oh, that was,
Yeah, my mum said it. I know. Look for the they're like. She was like, they'll be very glamorous and tall, but look for the Adam's apple. That's how you'll tell.
okay.
So that was my first thinking of it, and I remember seeing and being like, oh wow, like very confused, but in not a weird way, not confused in a what oh that's cool.
Okay.
Like that's interesting. Like why? What is this? And then also I'd say, so that was that one, and then Lily Savage was an iconic drag queen from England, from the UK, funny as anything, rough as nails, comedy gold, and they were mainstream.
But what was drag? Because this is the part that confused me too. Is drag uh the dressing and performance, or is
It's
or,
definitely it's definitely changed, I think, over time. I think drag used to be very just very underground, very wink wink, nudge nudge. Like in the UK and the US, I think they're very different.
interesting?
So
Okay.
US has a lot more pageant, which is the idea of in drag and drag queen sense, looking like a woman, like the female illusion.
Okay.
Whereas in the UK, it was less about the polish, less about the perfection, more about the humor, more about the fun, more about the message, more about what you were saying.
Okay.
It was not necessarily about the whole trying to look like a woman. And I still feed into that narrative. My drag, if people would still call it drag, I don't know. I call it me, it's an extension of me. I love fashion, and it's a way to utilize my identity in different ways, but I don't tuck, I don't pad, I don't do anything to kind of change my body to look like a female body, because I firstly think everyone's body's different, so we shouldn't be feeding into one particular stereotype of what that shape is. And two, I'm not trying to be a woman. I'm just trying to be me, and everyone knows what I've got between my legs, and everyone knows so I'm not trying. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Not that I'm having it on show, but I'm I choose not to do those things, the things like padding and putting boobs on any. I've done it in the past, but now I'm no, this is me. So that's what drag is to me.
Okay.
And drag, I think, is your heightened version, or your most whether it's masculine or feminine, because drag can be drag kings too. There's not just drag queens. There's a spectrum of drag again. It's a performance. It's an art.
Okay. And so when you decided that this is an art that you wanted to go deeper into, it was about expression.
Totally about gender expression. Yeah.
Okay. And it was tapping into a truer sense of identity as well.
It was exploring and understanding that the binary doesn't exist. The binary exists, but you can live beyond the binary and play with the binary and have fun with the binary,
Yes.
And it was East London drag is, to me, it's the top tier. It's the most kind of creative, ruckus, silly drag. And I came from incredible performers and artists like Johnny Woo and John Sizzle, who owned the Glory. They now own the Divine. They are pioneers in like the field. Like they are legendary, and it's a space to allow yourself not to be so serious. And I think that's the best style of drag is and I don't do it as much now. Like I don't do standing on stage performing to an audience in the way that I used to, but like if a drag artist can host the room and has you in the palm of their hand, they can say anything, and you know every single person in that room is in a safe space. I don't know why I'm holding the mic, but like, but everyone's in a safe space and they're allowed to come in on the journey, and it's meant to take you out of the world that's happening, whether it's taking the piss out of the world that's happening, but in those spaces it's okay to be yourself.
Yes.
And that's what is so important about those spaces, and losing those spaces is terrifying, because I feel like they were so formative for me. They're so formative for a lot of people. And like I think the idea of like the demonization of drag and what that is again, it's a threat to the patriarchal ideals of what gender and the binary is, because we play around with it.
Yes.
We use it as performance, because we do every day.
But do you feel as if there is a threat to drag today? Because at least and maybe it's because I've opened my mind, more. Is that I feel like wow, my God, drag's everywhere. Like it's everywhere. I'm going to events. There's a drag queen hosting the event.
Yeah.
And I feel I've gone to drag shows. So it's one of those. You see obviously Drag Race on TV.
Yeah,
It's like
it
which is incredibly popular. So to me, it feels like the popularity has increased. But do you feel like has the popularity increased or no? And then where's the demonization coming from?
So I think 2 points here. I think the first one is I feel like it has peaked and it's been going back down. And I think that is also in response to what's been happening with the pendulum swinging back to the right, and like the conversations getting a lot more conservative, and the approach to views and ideologies being like restricted, and like conversations around gender and trans people like is becoming so much toxic, and people can't actually differentiate that drag is a performance, and like you can be trans and do drag, but it's not the same thing. They are two completely different things, and with that I think just queerness in general is being kind of seen, just being ushered in a different way. I've definitely noticed, I think last year at Pride there was like 47% less brands than the year before, and this is what the big problem where we always talk about, like the pink washing of or the pink pound. Like, are you supporting us, or are you just profiting off us at this time? And are you going to be there when it gets hard? And it's getting harder. We're losing spaces, we're losing performers, we're losing artists, we're losing people that are struggling because of the weight of the world at the minute and how toxic it's become. And that's why spaces and prides are so important. And that's when you go back to your point about being an ally, that's what is so important. Like showing up now when it's getting harder,
Okay.
I think that's, to me, is the main thing. But I say about the popularization of drag, we have definitely seen, I've had amazing opportunities. Like I was in Vogue, like what the hell? Like that's crazy as a queer working class kid, as a drag artist, to get to go into those spaces. A lot of things I've got to do is mind blowing. But I'm worried that now that there's a lot more drag and there's a lot less opportunities happening now, because I think brands are too scared. Conversations on TV turn toxic more so than I've seen in many, many years. There were drag artists that were on things over Christmas, mainstream stuff, and the hate online was volatile,
Right.
and it wasn't necessarily like that 5 years ago. So I think we're in a weird time where there has been a shift in people's either consciousness about what drag is or about queerness in general, or they never really got it in the first place or understood it, and they've found other people that also don't, and that has bred more hate with the algorithms online and social media. So I think there's a lot with it. But I mean, drag will always exist. Like, we're not meant to be mainstream, I don't think. Like, drag is meant to be a bit underground and cheeky, and that's when it's the best, when it's raw and real. So drag will forever go on. But I feel like maybe we might have seen the peak of, for now anyway.
Okay, that's interesting. So if we go back to that competition I saw you in.
Yes.
So that's at the Glory. This was your first.
Yeah.
This is your first drag competition. At this,
I pissed on Donald Trump in my performance.
yeah,
Not really.
I saw because that was
Yeah.
the first Donald Trump.
Yes, it was the first time round.
First time
Yeah,
around.
first time round. Yeah.
Look at that. Who would have thought what
Yeah.
happened? So that performance, I'm curious about your lifestyle though at this point. No drugs?
No drugs.
So you've quit?
I wasn't fully sober, but
Okay.
I was not using drugs. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not using drugs. Uh,
I was smoking. No, I wasn't smoking weed.
okay.
I was
Essentially, every time I would say, look, I mean, it doesn't count.
No, but yeah.
Like, it doesn't count.
I mean, apparently it does here. So
All right, fair. So,
realize it.
so you were okay. So that, and then in terms of your identity, sexual identity, how did you identify?
Queer.
Queer.
Yeah, and I think I was around a lot of queer people, and we were living in a warehouse in North London, and there were like 14 of us living in this one tin, basically. That if it rained outside, it rained inside.
Oh my.
But it was fun. It was amazing, and it was like-minded people that were like in our mid-20s and discovering drag. Like me and my friend Barb's, we started drag together, you know,
Okay.
and we were having the best time. Like 2017, it was to me that was the best year I've ever done drag.
Wow. Okay.
Before the show, before Drag Race, the scene was thriving. There was exciting things happening. There were drag kings coming up that we hadn't necessarily seen on big stages before. Like there'd been one or two, but there were loads. Like there was a wealth of opportunity and talent and creativity, and it was a real buzz.
Could I ask, at this point, had you or were you in any committed relationships?
I was at that time, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I was in a relationship with someone.
Wow, look at that. So it was a good time.
It was a good time, yeah. We were like, unfortunately, we didn't end the greatest, and that to be honest, that's on my part. Like, I wasn't in the best place when we ended. After it was about 4 years we were together, 4.5 years. But I was going through some stuff, and I didn't deal with it in the best way. I think I became avoidant. I think that's something that I have struggled with too over the years, avoidant, and I think that's where kind of drugs have come in as well, or not even just drugs. Like I think like I have like a bit of an all or nothing mentality.
Mm.
Like it can be good, but it can be bad. You know, it's like a real balance, a fine line. Like I can get really into exercise and be really fit and healthy, and like it, but then it can also go the other way.
Right.
So that's something that I've always kind of felt I've had to strike a balance with. But yeah, I was in a committed relationship, a really good group of friends. Like everything was exciting, stuff felt new. There was like a lot of competition, but it was healthy, you know, like it was, everyone was hungry. Everyone wanted something, like everyone wanted to succeed.
Yes, yes. So when you got RuPaul's Drag Race UK, right? You're casted. How does that process work?
So you have to send a tape in, a
Okay.
10-minute tape, and they have different parts of it. So like performance, lip sync, fashion, and then you have to edit it together. Obviously personality where you're talking, an acting challenge. Don't know if I said that. And then you send it in, and then you just wait for the beckon.
Okay. And did you feel confident sending your audition tape in?
I did know it was all right. It was decent, and me and a few of my friends, we showed each other our tapes, and then they were like, "That's yours is really good."
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh," and I didn't expect to get the calls, but I did it. I went on it, and I wasn't ready, but I just threw myself into it. I feel like that's something that I always do, you know,
Yes.
just go for it.
And when you, and that's the all or nothing. So you're all in.
Yeah.
You're going for it. What's your vision of why you're there? Like, what do you think that you're going to get in return for being on the show?
I think that as a child or as a young person, I always wanted to be an artist, and I didn't do it. I like didn't get to do that. So for me, that was like, I might have only started this 2 years ago or 2 and a bit years ago, and I might not be the best queen. I might not be the funniest. I might not be the best at acting, but I will work the hardest, and I will push myself. If I believe, when I'm in that space where I believe in myself, then I could do anything, you know?
Yes.
And that was what I went into it with. And unfortunately, I was in the bottom 2 on the first week, which is not a good place to be. Like, you don't want to be there. So I won the lip sync, but that put my back up, because I was like, shit, like I'm there's so many strong personalities because I mean, I've got a personality, but I'm not, when there's a lot of big personalities, I'm not the loudest in the room. Like do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I guess that comes back to school where I was like trying to fit in a way, but there were definitely a lot of people that were like shadier and louder, and that's not necessarily me. Like I don't bitch, or I'm not inherently nasty. It's like not kind of my wit or my tongue. I could be sassy or a bit sarcastic. So I struggled with that in drag in general.
Okay.
That idea of like having to be a bit of a bitch. You don't have to be, but that would happen a lot. And then COVID happened. So we were filming
Yes.
and we had to stop after 4 episodes.
Mm.
And I remember being like, I've just spent all of my savings, all the money that I have on these outfits. Like that, what was the point? Like I was doing it, I guess, when you're saying what was it for, like to prove to myself that I can figure out myself as an artist, and I'm getting to go on this massive show and this platform. But at that point, I was like it felt very redundant, you know? We came out, went on to universal credit. Thankfully, we have that system, and we had no jobs. Like all of our complete income had gone.
Wow.
So it was scary because we were like, are we even going to go back? And funnily enough, and I shouldn't look into this too much, but I'd started drinking by that point. The second time when I went back, and I was like, I went back and was confident and did it, you know? Whereas in the first part, I was like anxious and a bit second guessing myself. So I don't know, like I think I was happier though then
Okay. When you went back.
when I went back.
You went back. So you started drinking, not using any drugs.
No, just drinking.
But just drinking. Were you in a relationship at that point?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, still in a relationship. But then also what was very memorable was you came out as pansexual.
Yeah.
Um, did you choose that moment specifically?
I think it was. So again, when we spoke about, because I spoke about being non-binary on the show, they do kind of tell you, oh, why didn't you have a conversation with this person about that? So that's kind of, it was organic, like the conversation. It's not scripted, but you are kind of like,
Right.
production does have a little like summit, you know?
You're
puts you
produced.
puts you in a position that kind of allows those conversations, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it kind of initiates it. So that's kind of why the non-binary conversation came up, which I'm so glad it did, because myself and Ginny got to have that conversation really raw and openly. Like they were struggling with their identity, and I was there for them to like have a shoulder to cry on. And you know, I at that time don't know all the answers. I still don't. I think everything evolves, and we should be just open to that. But like I spoke about how I felt, and it resonated with people, you know, which
Yes.
was a crazy moment, which I didn't expect.
What did you say, and why didn't you expect it to resonate?
I think I simplified the feeling in a way where I said it feels like a circle trying to fit into a square hole. It's just not quite right. Like if the circle is this binary and a square is this binary, we're something like a triangle, and we can't fit into either.
Yes.
And then you feel like you're other. There's a difference between gender and sex that I think a lot of people might misinterpret or don't understand. Gender has been commonly and widely accepted and known as the definition being a socially constructed view. So gender is what has been created. We have gendered things. Male clothes, female clothes, like boy clothes, that's kind of gendered clothes, was actually really, you could both wear a pair of jeans the same. You could wear boots, just get the bigger size. Like it's all, we have gendered those things. We created the pink and the blue for the boys and the girls. And we've created this idea of like, girls have to be quiet and boys have to be strong and can't cry, you know? And that's why there's a big problem with male and emotion, because we were told from such a young age. And I, from a young age, didn't fit with any of this. I was like, well, I want to be like this, but I can also play with the frogs, and I can also wear a dress. I didn't fit into all of that, like the idea of what gender is. And that's what the difference with gender and sex is. Sex is the biology, like the biological parts of you, the anatomy, like what you're born with. But gender is everything else. Really, if we were to be like all rejecting this idea of the binary, which I know some people it's important to feed into it, and that gives them a sense of belonging. But actually, I think like it would benefit every single person on the planet if we didn't have these rigid roles.
Mm, that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers.
Do you think?
I mean, because the reason why I say it ruffles a lot of feathers is you look at what's happening in the United States.
Yeah. So Jordan, who came on your podcast,
Yes.
incredible conversation.
Yes.
By the way, just to say, and the way he spoke about it, that's a similar vein to what I'm trying to say with it. I'm not saying like reject this idea of what male and female is, but like it's okay to also be fluid and just understanding that if you have both masculine and feminine energy, you are like it's the best way to be.
Yes.
Accepting that you can be emotional and strong.
Yeah. Agree. You know, and that we all embody this.
We all should. Yeah, we all inherently
Yes.
in our nature have qualities of masculine and feminine, whether people like it or not.
Facts. These are facts. So then in that conversation as well, you came out with pansexual,
Yes.
which is a term, I'll be honest with you, I did not know about pansexuality until, maybe like 3 years ago, and I was like, what is this? Let me try to understand this. And then after I looked at it, I thought, maybe everybody's pansexual.
Yeah, I mean,
like, so what's your take on being pansexual?
my take is that it's more about the person than necessarily genitals, necessarily gender. It includes all walks and all types of identity. It's not exclusive or exclusionary of any one. You can fall in love or you can be attracted to the energy of whoever that may be.
Okay.
And I found that over the years with so many people, because we do live in a superficial world where everything is like, especially on like apps,
Yes.
it's like, oh, you don't like the look of this person, swipe. But actually, you're just seeing an image of that person. They might be the funniest, most kind person you've ever met, and might like. So to me, that's what pansexual is. It's being open to the experience that it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be kind of very fluid. It can be all greedy, like other people say.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just like, I think that we're spiritual beings living a human experience,
Yes.
and that we will hopefully go on to another amazing place where they're like, well done, you passed, you didn't.
You did.
But
Yes.
like, who knows, Like, I think it's nice to think that's my idea of what faith is. There's stuff that's much bigger than us. We are like a blip in time, whatever is going on. And I think that tries to kind of ground me. And recently I've been really feeding into that when I've been stressed or anxious. And I'm like, those feelings are a moment. We just have to ride it out.
Yes, I'm with you. Now, on Drag Race, that in itself was a very memorable conversation, but something else happened that is the most, I think, memorable. Do you know what that was?
Me not winning.
That was probably close. No, it was UK Hun.
Oh yeah, that was Big Bang Bong.
Oh my gosh, that was
We charted.
like,
Yeah.
So I read in the research first that you charted, right? It was I think 27.
Yeah, 27.
27. And I was thinking, okay, so how did this sound if you charted? Because I wasn't here, or I didn't see Drag Race during that time. So I went YouTube, right? I look at it, and honestly, I was like, this is phenomenal.
It was a moment.
It was, and not only was it phenomenal, is I have to give you your dues, because I saw like you're even in growth from 2017 to that moment.
Mm.
The dancing, the physicality that you showed was just like next level.
Thank you. I don't know if I could do that now. No, I could. Hurt myself. But that was a real moment. That was the first episode back. And people were like, oh, Bimini's back in the competition. Because in the first part, I wasn't necessarily like, so I started having this like trajectory in a way. But it was a real big moment for Drag Race in general, because we were so worried about how it was going to be perceived. COVID, we're like, we're going to have no work. But because of COVID, everyone was at home. And it meant every Thursday night, people had an hour and a bit of joy where they could just switch off from all of the shit that's going on, all the parties that the Tories were having, all of the like stuff that people were doing wrong, and all of the like scariness, and just see humans being vulnerable and creative and expressive and open. And I think that is what is just missing in general in
Yes.
society, is viewing people that aren't yourself
Yes.
and seeing that they are human as well.
All right. So now, Bimini, I have to quiz you.
Oh,
Can I quiz you?
yes, go on.
Because you're sharp. You're sharp, but let me see. Let me see.
Okay.
I want to see if you remember your verse on UK.
Yeah.
Do you? All right, hit it.
Release
Start-
the beast. Bimini, get a pillow for these girls because they sleep on me. Jenna Bender, system offender. I like it rough, but my lentils tender. Don't be scared to embrace the femme. Whether you're he, she, or them. Limp wrist hair flick, creme de la creme. Love yourself. Say that again.
You know, the rhyming skills. The rhyming skills.
Mm.
Yes, yes. So,
It was very like 90s Prodigy, Keith Flint energy was what I was going for.
yeah, but you did that also while the dancing, and really I go back to it as like, no, you're phenomenal on the stage.
Thank you. I
Phenomenal
do
on
love
stage.
being on stage.
Yeah, you could see it. Like you could see that you are a dancer and you're athletic as well. You could see where the yoga is in there
Yeah.
as well. And also to be able to carry a verse and then do all that at the same time, that takes skill.
It was what I think it always dreamt of doing, that performing. I've written music in the past, or written raps, or written like poems or whatever, but that was the first time of getting to do it in that setting as like a girl group. Like we call this a girl group challenge, and like that was always what I wanted to do. I mean, solo, but like
By myself.
solo, but like yeah. I remember first starting performing, shitting myself, was so scared.
Mm.
I'd never done it, and then the confidence grew. And I got more confident over the years, and I was doing some crazy performances before Drag Race, like getting myself covered in oat milk. Like it was,
Wow.
I'd come out as a cow, talk about like the dairy industry, and then strip off into like a fake Louis Vuitton bikini and get covered on oat milk by like someone, and then like twerk into MILF Money by Fergie. Like it was ridiculous, and it was fun, but there was a message, like
Yeah.
I was always trying to say something, whether people liked it or not. But performing is something that I love to do. I haven't been doing it as much recently. I'm focusing on other areas, but like in music and like DJing, like I love that. And I used to DJ before Drag Race anyway.
Okay.
So it's something that I've picked up because I just love it. Like I love being able to DJ to a massive crowd of people that are in with you and take them on a musical journey,
Yes.
One of the best feelings. I think you can't beat it, but I do love being on a stage. I think I just fell out of love with it.
Mm. But so what's interesting is that that's a moment that you had been basically waiting for, anticipating your entire life.
Yeah.
And you have this moment, massive stage, as you're saying, everybody's at home. Everyone that I talk to about Drag Race, they specifically remember that moment.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the moment that they remember.
Yeah.
So here you had your moment, and it sounds like it was like an anticlimax.
It wasn't an anticlimax. I think for a long time I was enjoying it. A long time I was having a good time. It wasn't until something big happened in my life that threw me completely off course. And I'm not blaming that necessarily. That was impactful, and it was a trigger that I didn't deal with in the most healthy way. And that's when I first I used drugs to numb how I was feeling about it, because I came off the show and I had a wealth of opportunity, and I was thrust into this incredible world, and I was going to like 5-star hotels, like getting asked to go there, and I'm like, this is so not me, like it's crazy. And that was amazing, and I was working and I was shooting magazine covers, and I was like, my dream is coming true. Like I shot like 4 covers in a month.
Wow.
Like after Drag Race, I was so grateful and so honored, but I was working myself every single day. Like I think it's the working class ethic in me. It's like keep up, because my mum would always say like, ain't no one gonna pay your bills for you. You got to do it yourself. So I've always had that. Like I'll keep hustling. Opportunities were there. Kept on hustling. Had a really, but then unfortunately about 6 months in, it went sour with my manager at the time, who I had signed a contract with quite illegally, to be honest, and it shouldn't have been kosher. And I was then said I wanted to leave because he was pushing me in a way I didn't want to go in. And I was like, I don't really want to be doing that. I don't want to do that. I don't think you get me as an artist. And then it turned into a 7.5-month legal battle with him. I ended up losing a lot of money to get out of the lawsuit. I paid, like, settled out, but it broke me. And I ended up just, trying to forget. And that's when I first used drugs again.
So Drag Race, you come off, you're at the height. I mean, everyone wants access to you. You then sign a deal with someone.
I did it before.
Oh, you did it
So
before.
I did it in the break of the thing, and I was doing not very well in the beginning of the competition, but I shouldn't have done it, and we were told not to. But I was, I guess, hungry for my career after, and naive that went for it, and it's my fault. I regret it. I had to pay the price. Not so gonna say groomed, but like there was a way of like kind of, you're gonna get this and this and this, you know.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
deliver
I've never
those
had that.
things.
I'm living in my overdraft. Like I want this world. Like I've worked to get here, but then after the show, like yeah, it should have been void. But
Yeah.
we were like working, and then I have never dealt with lawyers before. I'm like never, like I've never had to do that, and I couldn't do it. Like it took away my creativity. It took away what I loved to do. It took away the passion. It then became a game. It then became something that I was like, this doesn't feel right. I'm like going to gigs, I'm unhappy. I'm not making any money from this. I'm not saying it's about the money, but I'm not making money because it's going into the legal fees or because he's holding it from me. So I'm having to do all of this work. And what for? I'm like getting worked to the bone, like working every day. And it finally just took its toll on me, you know?
And that pressure encouraged you to begin using again.
Because I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know who to speak to that would relate to the issue that I'm having. I felt so much shame that I had given so much power to this person, and it took away my creativity and my soul. It literally took away my soul, and I have had to fight all these years to get it back, you know? It's tenacity that I've got. Like I will keep on going, determination, but it did definitely take it away, and it scorned me for a bit. Like I wasn't present for a lot of things. I'd go to events and I'd go to gigs, but I wasn't there. It wasn't the Bimini that from Drag Race that people liked. It was a version that wasn't happy. It was a version that was become a robot in a way, was just shutting everything out and couldn't cope, you know?
How does the relapse in using, how does that then impact your day to day? Because I would imagine that, because there's a common theme in this conversation around shame and the reaction to shame. And you just mentioned that you felt shame, and that pushed you essentially into using again. But now you're using again.
And the shame of that made it worse. Like everything was rooted in shame with it when it comes to it. And I think this last year, the end of last year, I was a lot more open. I decided to be open about what I'd been through because I'm in a better place now, and I'm in control of my life again. I feel like I'm doing what is making me happy, and I'm getting back to that happiness, or that's my goal. But the shame of getting back into that, not knowing who to speak to, I then lost a lot of my friends that were close to me because I was either just like working or not coherent, like not there. I was like quite isolating myself. Didn't know who to trust because this person that I was meant to trust, who's like managing my career, has messed up a lot of people that were like fans that were ordering merch, for example, and like just didn't send the stuff to the money. Like there was a lot of things that were like, I don't know what to do here. Like I'm out of my depth. Like I'm not equipped to be able to be creative and go on stage and be witty and be fun and deal with what's going on without. And unfortunately, I just numbed myself with it, you know? It didn't just hurt me. It affected people that I was in good friendships with, relationships, people that I worked with, people that were like around me. And I'm very much aware of that, you know? And that's again, shame that fed into that. So it was a constant cycle of shame and regret, but then getting back into it to just switch off. And then it came to the point where I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like this is going to take me if it keeps going, you know? I'm not going to be here. And I don't want to do that. I've got too much more that I want to give. And I'm not allowing this man, I'm not allowing the power of just this one thing to knock me when I'm like achieving every single thing that I've always wanted.
There are moments that happen where we realize we have to make a change.
Yeah.
Right? And typically they come at the lowest point. So when you think back to the lowest point during that time of your life, when was it?
I would say 2023, about just after Halloween, which was the anniversary of. And do you know what? Like that, if I look back, like I mean, that's something that I need to work on and deal with, I think. But around that time, I think there's always been a bit of my mood does change a lot. I think subconsciously without like acknowledging, but that around that time was when I like had the bit like the worst of it, I think. Like switched off, went missing for a couple of days. Like I was on my own, but I was just couldn't see anyone, didn't want to see anyone. I was like so alone, crying out for help, but I didn't want the help as well. I knew then that's when I needed to make a change. And it's been a journey since. Like it's not been perfect, it's not been linear. It's not like I on that day I was like, I'm 100% sober. I was for a while, it's fluctuated, but the drug use isn't there now. Like the drug use isn't part of my life. I've drank alcohol. Like I'm not 100% fully sober right now. And I know that I understand that this is a journey that I'm going to be on forever in whatever capacity that is. But I've now understood after a lot of therapy that it's happiness that I need to be focused on the most. Because it's when I'm unhappy. And I've lost that like happiness, I think. I have to work harder, and it's coming back. Like, I mean, I went on to antidepressants, which I don't actually think were that great for me. But I realized I was suffering with depression and anxiety as well, and it was like it was something that I didn't admit, and that was why I was using in the end because it was numbing those feelings, you know. And what I'm trying to learn now, and I'm getting better at it again, is allowing myself to feel those things. It's okay to feel low. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to just have to have a negative feeling and numb it, you know, because it doesn't do good in the long run. And I've felt that. And I think it like hinders myself, my soul, my creativity, who I am, what I want to achieve. And it just, yeah, it masks everything. I think what I struggle with is going to a lot of situations. I'm in a lot of events and a lot of parties, and like I'll have like one or two now and like one or two drinks. And I'm like, I hope that this balance could continue, you know, but whether that's the truth, like I don't know what sobriety or recovery looks like for me fully.
Wow.
I think my ideal scenario is to be fully, completely sober. I hope the bad days are past and it's not going to happen again. I think I'm equipped and strong enough now to know how to navigate that.
Right. And even know how to, I would imagine, identify, because you mentioned those moments that were incredibly dark,
Yeah.
right? And it sounds like what you were describing was a spiral that was happening.
Totally, without not necessarily not realizing, but yeah, it was definitely a
It
spiral.
was a spiral. So what were the moments ahead of the spiral that you identified? Because I think that could help people before they get to that point. What did you notice, especially checking in terms of your emotion, what was happening around you, to indicate I'm moving to a very dark place?
I was overwhelmed. I had just, I think, just basically partied the weekend before. I was doing something that was quite important to me, and then I was like let down in myself. So I think it's those like when, because I'm very grateful for all the work and stuff I get to do, and I'm not in that space now, but I definitely was in a space of being unhappy. So when I was overwhelmed, instead of dealing with it and maybe reaching out to someone, or like being like, you know what, I'm feeling like this, let me write it down, or I'm feeling like this. These are all tools now that I'm like learning to do.
Yes.
Like they're all like things that I'm understanding to do will help me. Instead, like I did a natural thing to me, which was to either turn to the bottle or like do something. Because I think that's been so ingrained in my culture as a human. Like my family's Scottish, everyone drinks. Like it's so normalized, you know, to like in a good time, drink, in a bad time, drink. So I think I've unlearning that. So I think I would just say like it depends on how the spiral is, but what that looks like for you. If you know you have tendencies to take it too far or like to use too numb, then like as try and do everything you can not to do that,
Right.
because that's what I was doing.
And then I would also imagine something that you did, I think is very important is, and you've started to pick this up now, is to know the trigger.
Yeah.
So you felt overwhelmed, you felt like you were letting yourself down, and then Halloween comes, which is the trigger,
Yeah.
right? And normally when we get to that point where we are in that depressed state, and then the trigger comes along. That's what then leads us down the path of the spiral. So now you are aware,
Yeah.
you're armed with these things, and will help to prevent that happening the next time.
And I think it has done, because I have recently gone through something that has triggered abandonment feelings, like of me and my partner splitting up. And it's really sad, because we were together 2.5 years. I loved him, he loved me. I think I have been on this journey for a while, and and it's like I said, it's not linear. So I'm still discovering how to find my happiness and do these things. So I think I might not have necessarily been in the right place for a relationship, but I was wanting a relationship with someone because I loved him, And I think maybe I wasn't giving as much as I could have, but I need to do that to myself now.
Yes. Bimini, who loves you?
My mum. I'd say my mum loves me. And I've got good friends. I think my circle's a lot smaller than it used to be. I used to have be with loads of people all the time, but now I can't really. I don't feel like I do that now. I feel like I don't trust as much.
Okay.
So yeah, I think the people that love me would be, but I think the main person I want to love is myself, and that's what I'm trying to work on as much as I can.
Do you currently love yourself?
I don't fully love myself now. I don't think so, but I'm on the journey to. I think I have in the past, but I think I might have lost. I lost it a bit. I think I lost because when I look back, if I look back over the years and how I've dealt with things, that's not how I want to deal with things. That's not me. But instead of dwelling on that, I have to be accepting that that was what happened at the time and learn from it.
Sure.
So this journey of self-love, I think, is radical. So now I'm getting to do what I want to do, and the art I do and the music and the performance, everything is for me now.
Right. And those are all acts of self-love.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's not linear. It's not one route for self-love. There's no it's something you have to constantly work on. You can't give up. And if you lose it a bit, we need to bring it back, and that's where I'm at. So I'm not fully there, but I'm knocking on the door.
You're knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And you're knocking on the door because you're doing all these incredible things now.
Yeah.
So what are those incredible things that you're doing that light you up
Barry's.
today?
No, I've been do you know what? I have been making the music that I want to make. I love dance music. I came from the clubs. That was my world. I grew up listening to obviously the pop girlies, but I'm now getting to make the music that I want to make, in the production sense and also in the performance sense. I'm getting to do amazing shows that I'm doing. But I've got a new song coming out called Keep On Dancing with my friend Absolute, who's produced it. He's an amazing DJ and dance music producer. And it's basically about Keep On Dancing. It says what it is, but it's a kind of a love letter in a way to the clubs, to the nightclubs and the places we're losing. We're losing a lot of music, a lot of cultural spaces. So it's a letter to that. Keep on going. We need the music. Music brings everyone together.
Yes.
So I'm getting to do that. And obviously I also on the other side, I have my podcast, The Pieces.
Yes. I've seen the pieces.
The Pieces, yeah.
Seen
We're
the
doing
pieces?
it. We do it every week, which
Okay.
is yeah, it's good. So that's been a lot of fun. And we've had some amazing guests. We've got some really cool people coming up. So that's kind of where my time is split right now.
Do you still enjoy being on stage, performing on stage?
I do. I haven't properly performed on stage in a minute, but when was the last time I performed? But sometimes I don't. It depends on what I'm doing.
Okay. That's interesting. So if you think back to your happiest moments performing, what were those moments?
So I'd say that my happiest times were when I was coming up through the scene. There was such a sense of community and fun and freedom of drag. It was so not new. Drag's been around for years, but this was new. The fact that brunches were booking drag queens on a weekend.
Yes.
I was doing 4 or 5 gigs in a day on a Saturday, running around with a fold-up chair, doing acrobatics on it.
Wow.
And it was a hustle. We loved it. I remember working full-time for 5 months. It was the worst time of my life. No, it wasn't. But I'd find a job for 5 months in marketing, and I would only go to basically the gym box at lunchtime because that was the only thing that get me through the day. Because then but I was doing drag on the side. And when I quit the job, was teaching yoga, went full time. I remember making more money doing drag on 1 month than I was doing the full-time job. And I was like, yes, we're doing it. Like, this is amazing. Like, I'm getting to perform and do this. It's exciting. It was just like, I don't know, the air was amazing. So that was one of the best times. And then I would say we did the drag race tour. They were really fun. Like my drag race tour, I did a performance to Prodigy and like my own music, and it was like chaotic and punky and pole and like I loved that.
Okay.
But I think the things that don't feed the soul are like the generic. I don't know. Yeah, I guess like the things that I don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm with you. It's like you want to do all the things that feed your soul,
Yeah,
and everything else you just want to outsource it.
yeah,
And the more that you're doing those things that feed your soul, the more you are literally self-loving yourself.
yeah.
Can I say, this is what I have most loved about drag. So I've been to a drag brunch, right?
Yeah.
And it's to your point of, I felt like the host, they were able to say anything to anyone in the room. And in particular, from a African-American community, right, which is a marginalized community. So being from a marginalized space, I always feel empowered when we can talk about everything, not just some things.
Yeah, totally.
And that was the liberation of going to this, to this drag brunch.
Yeah.
And what it also did is, because we could talk about everything, it helped to destroy ignorance and arrogance in the room. So ultimately what I'm saying here is that perhaps we need to elect the first drag president and prime minister. Yeah. This is perhaps what we need to do.
Well, Donald Trump is in drag. But no, I mean, like, it's again, this is I've always loved politics in a way, because I think one thing I don't like about it is how much integrity do these people have? Do they believe in the policies that they're now spouting, or is it just because that's what has been created in the media?
Right.
Your voting history, all of that. Like, there's only a few politicians, I would say, that have true integrity. But like, I think I'm not going to get taken seriously when I say things because I'm the way I look. Like people like, oh, put you in a box. People, that's that. Oh, you can't have an opinion. You're dressed like that. But like, everyone's entitled to have an opinion.
But how does that make you feel to be told you can't have an opinion because you're dressed like that?
Oh, I love it. Like, I was invited to Sadiq Khan's like signing ceremony for his mayor.
Mayor
because
of London.
I've been told I can't, but I still do it.
Okay.
Like, I have my podcast, The Pieces, and I spoke to Jeremy Corbyn on it. I've spoken to Owen Jones. Like, I speak to politicians. Like, I can engage and have conversations, as most people can. Some people don't want to, but like, we should all be able to talk to a politician about how we feel and what is going on. Because otherwise, what's the point in having a politician?
Right.
They're meant to bridge the gap between the people and the kind of the laws or the government and what's going on. Whereas, like, if you can't have conversations with politicians, that's where the problem is. And a lot of the time we can't have conversations because they're higher educated and they come from a different class than the average person. They're all kind of part of the same boys club, So it's meant to be like that because it's how it is. But I feel like, yeah, being me, other people being themselves, more voices is so important.
Yes. Yes. All right. There's a question that everybody gets that I want to ask you. I cannot wait to hear the answer.
Okay.
And that is, if you think back to all of the incredible conversations you've had across your life, what was the most memorable? So who was it with, this conversation, and what did you take away? What did you learn?
I would say Tweed. I'd say it was Ellie Tweed. I'd say her light in general, the way she would view the world, empathy in a way that was like not a cliche. She was just herself, and she would have a smile on her face all the time, and she would light up a room, and her energy was magnetic. And I think she taught me that life is short and live your life. Go for it, don't hold back.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I've loved so much about this conversation is I come into these where I do my research, and as a result, I have an opinion about the person that I'm, the guest. that's about to come in, and then I sit, and then 100% of the time the guest changes my opinion. And one of the things I will say about you, which is profound, is you have an incredible energy. And you've used that word a few times, and you used it with regard to your best friend, and you do. And I don't know if you're aware of how incredible your energy is. And I think this is a reason why you are loved by so many. When I asked you that question, who loves you? You mentioned a few people. I would argue that there are many more people who love you, who you are unaware of. And I think that's important always to remember, is that you have there's this village of people who adore you and love you. And it could be because of that one moment on stage, UK Hun. It could be because they saw you at a brunch. It could be because they saw you at this particular event. But they love you and they adore you and they stand for what you stand for. And I am now in that category. I really am.
Thank you.
I think you are brilliant. I think that you are introspective. You've gone through these incredible challenges, and you are very vulnerable in saying, you know what? I'm still going through them, right? I may never fully get out of this, but I'm going to continue to fight. And ultimately, that's all we can do, is continue to fight. And I hope for many things for you, but in particular, what I hope for is your happiness, because I know that is what you want more than anything. And that is what I believe you're going to get.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just it was quite hard to hear that. I don't know why. Quite hard to hear. But thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. You got it. And also, I'm going to say this is, and this is one of the, I always say the thing that's going to get me into trouble, but I always say it anyway, is, when you're talking about, I'm non-binary, right? So don't put me in this box over here. Don't put me in this box over here. I'm Bimini. You know what's interesting is, as I see you, I don't see you in a box at all.
Good. I'm good. Good.
Yeah, like,
Glad.
I just see you as you.
It's also like, when it comes to like the pronoun side of it, which I didn't say necessarily too much, but like, I don't mind as long as I know that it's not someone, you're not being a dick, I don't mind, because I like I say, I'm me. So if you say he, she, to me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Pronouns are like, I actually say it without trying to sound wanky or anything. It's almost like a post-gender ideology of like, it's not the binary. It's not like, it's just kind of like the binary exists, but I don't want to exist within it.
Yes.
It's kind of different to that. And it doesn't matter if you call me he, doesn't matter if you call me she. If you do it with malintent, I'll know. I can feel it. I can see it.
Yes.
But ultimately, like, it's a weird one to say, because it's like, say whatever, really. But like, for some people, it's so important for pronouns,
Yeah. Yeah. But also, it shouldn't be. Like, you can see where it doesn't need to be. And I think that's why your artistry is so important, is because it is allowing us to step out of this script. One of the things I see more than anything is, as I have more of these conversations, how much of a script we are handed, and how much we almost subscribe to the script without knowing it.
Totally, yeah.
And if it wasn't for all these conversations, I could see how I would have just continued down this road of and thinking this is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
But why would you not? Because it's just, why would you challenge what it's been like? Yeah.
Right. So on that note, I thank you. Really, this has been incredible. This has been phenomenal. This has
Yay.
been everything that I wanted it to be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What did you think?
That was well beyond my expectations. I think I had a stereotype around how Bimini would respond to certain questions. And what I just saw there was a phenomenally mature person who, quite honestly, should be running for political office.
100%.
Yeah. When I asked Bimini, do you love yourself? And the response was somewhat. It wasn't a specific yes. It was, there's some parts. But I would argue this is their highest point in life, because of the maturity, ability to self-reflect, and acknowledgement of the lessons learned. Especially when I was in the US, there was a certain script I was following, and that I never realized I was handed to by society. And I think if I would have followed that, I never would have come across a Bimini in my life, yet have been open and receptive to hear them. And so that to me is the number one lesson is not to judge. Oh my gosh, you know what? One of the biggest things I have to say is how Bimini articulately identified shame as a driver of many issues throughout their life, but also the lives of others. It's important for us to examine shame, what that does to us, why it's doing that thing to us. That was very, very insightful. This is a conversation that everyone should listen to because everyone will see themselves through Bimini. And not only see themselves, but see their pain, see their trauma, but also see their promise.